Hi all of you awesome scuba divers out there, welcome to the Scuba Diving Magazine channel, your favourite place for the latest scuba diving news and gear reviews. Today I have my hands on the new OrcaTorch D710 dive torch. So the D710 is a rechargeable torch with a maximum output of 3000 lumens. It's made from anodized aluminium, it's good and tough, and it's got a triple seal in the centre, so it's waterproof down to 150 meters, so you can just stow it in a pocket and relatively forget about it. The torch itself measures 36 millimeters at its widest point on the head, and it's 156 millimeters in length, so it's a decent like handheld torch kind of size. D710 weighs in at 223 grams including the battery, and it has a good solid feel to it. Unlike some other torches, it doesn't rattle when you shake it around. It's very well engineered. If you heard any shaking, that's from my watch. The torch itself doesn't make any noise. Top to tail, there's a single luminous LED in the head. Luminous is the brand, I presume, that makes it. That produces the 3000 lumens, and that's focused into a 6-degree spotlight beam with a pretty big and bright corona around it. Not all of that light is focused into that 6-degree hotspot in the center. There's a fair amount of spillover, so you can focus on one particular item with that hotspot whilst illuminating a fair bit around it also. Matte black anodized aluminium body, that is mil-spec type 3, which basically makes it both corrosion resistant so that the salt water doesn't actually reach the aluminium, and it also hardens that outer layer against like bumps and scrapes, so it's a good tough external layer. Push button activation with the titanium alloy button that has a battery level indicator built into it. As soon as you press it, there's a little light. If it's green, then you have plenty of power left, and when it starts to turn red, you're down to 30%. If it starts flashing red, then you're down to 10%. The button has some clever features. If you hold it down for 5 seconds, it goes into a safety kind of mode for like storage and transport. It basically deactivates the button, so that if it's like rolling around, it's not going to accidentally turn on, even if you do, well, that button does get pressed in like a bag or a pocket. It's not going to either burn through all the battery or get so hot that it damages itself. But a quick double press is going to deactivate that kind of lockout mode. During the dive, the button press will cycle between 1700, 800 and 400 lumens, and then off. The maximum, like 3000 lumens, that's a special turbo mode that you need to hold the button down for more than half a second, and when you then continue to hold that button, you get the full 3000 lumens, but you only get about 1 minute of it at a time. It's kind of meant for emergencies or like high beams. It is not made for like constant use. You have to hold the button down, and then yeah, after, for me it was about 50 something seconds, it just switches itself off. It goes back to the mode that you were previously on. It doesn't switch off completely. The torch can be used on the surface, but it will get hot, especially on the brighter modes. Most dive torches will though. They're only as powerful as they are because they're using the surrounded water as a heat sink. So don't be surprised if you're using it on the surface and it starts to get warm. But the D710 has a temperature sensor inside it that will turn the light off to prevent it from damaging itself. So if you are using it between dives to kind of, I don't know, check whatever's going on in your backyard, and it does get hot, if it gets too hot, the torch is going to sense that and switch itself off to avoid damaging itself. Unscrew the body and you'll find the triple O-ring seal and the rechargeable 21700 battery. You can recharge the battery by plugging in the USB-C cable into the battery itself, and the battery has a little indicator light to let you know when it's full. Battery run times run from 7 hours and 40 minutes at the lowest 400 lumen setting to 1 hour and 40 minutes at the 1700 like high setting. There is no measured time for the full 3000 lumens because it's just going to turn itself off after 1 minute, but yeah, I imagine it's about half of that. The bottom of the torch has a little silicone band on it. That kind of bugs me because it doesn't fit perfectly into this groove, but it doesn't affect the performance in any way. It just bugs me. And it does add a little bit of grip to an otherwise smooth torch, so it gives you something to grab hold of. And right down at the bottom, there's an eyelet to attach the lanyard or a bolt snap, and that's built into the body of the torch itself, so it's nice and secure. But let's quickly see how the torch arrives and what comes with it. This is how it arrives in a neat little EVA case. You got a little grab handle and a zippered opening, and just OrcaTorch on the front. Opening it up, inside we have a small book of words on the user manual. Just the user manual. We have some pre-greased spare O-rings, which are always handy. It's nice that they grease them for you, and it's in a little Ziploc bag, so it is going to stay greased. That way you don't have to sort of either put it in dry or find some grease. Some little foam spacers that I presume are meant for something. A lanyard. The torch itself, and the battery is presumably inside, yes, because it switches on. I'll have a play about with the torch later. You also get OrcaTorch personal lighting solutions for safe diving. I like that. Just more information about the rest of the torch ranges. And a warranty card that you can fill out if you so wish, and the little foam insert that you can take out or leave in if you want to use it to store the torch and or transport it around. But yeah, let's take a close look at the torch itself. So who's the D710 for? The 710 is a tough little handheld torch. It's a good size for a primary torch in like warm, clear waters. Perfect if you're like going on a trip to the Red Sea and you want like something to light the way inside of a shipwreck, or during a night dive. It's the perfect size and power for that. Or it make a great backup torch in murky waters, because yeah, that 3000 lumens, even if you're not using it, it's still going to pierce through that water in an emergency. I'd only ever use like the lower 400 lumens on like a night dive in clear blue waters like in the Red Sea, and yeah, in the emergencies, if you have that higher power, you've got that 3000 if you need to help be seen when you're on the surface and to like pierce through the murky waters. The beam angle is actually nice. I normally see 6 degrees in like specs of a torch and think it's just going to be a laser beam, but actually the corona is pretty big around the hotspot, and the hotspot itself isn't that defined. It kind of blends. You can still make out the hotspot, but it kind of blends into the overall like corona of the torch, so you're getting like the best of both worlds. You can focus on one thing, but it's also illuminating in front of you, so you can see where you're going. I'm not a huge fan of advertising the 3000 lumens for it only to be like a turbo mode that only works for 1 minute at a time. Yeah, I know technically it can produce 3000 lumens, but and it is a benefit to have that kind of mode. I just don't want anyone to be like annoyed thinking they're getting a 3000 lumen torch, that they have to actually just hold a button down and then it turns itself off after a minute. But other than that, it's a cracking little torch. OrcaTorch have always made solid torches at very fair prices. The D710 retails around 160 British pounds or 130 US dollars, which is a really fair price for something this size and that powerful. Most torches in this kind of price range are well below the 1700 high setting, let alone the 3000 lumen turbo mode. It is a solid little torch. There's not much else to say about it. It fits in the hand really nicely, and it's very well put together. If you're in the market for a pretty powerful dive torch that isn't too large and has a rechargeable battery as well, then the OrcaTorch D710 is a fine choice. For more information, then head over to our website, scubadivingmag.com, and of course remember to subscribe to the channel for more, because I have a case full of different OrcaTorches that they've sent me in for a test right now. So if you do have any questions about them, then pop them down in the comments underneath this video. Thank you for watching, everybody, and of course, safe diving.